My sister stole my inheritance, until I read the will aloud. Dad left everything to me, my sister Valerie announced at the funeral reception, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. I stood frozen by the coffee table, a plate of untouched sandwiches in my hand. Our father had been buried 3 hours ago, and she was already claiming his estate. That's not possible, I said quietly. Valerie smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. The lawyer already confirmed it. The house, the savings, the business. All mine. People around us pretended not to listen while obviously listening. Aunt Carol touched my arm sympathetically. Uncle Raymond looked uncomfortable. Valerie had always been Dad's favorite, but this seemed extreme even for him. I want to see the will, I said. She waved her hand dismissively. You can see it at the reading next week. Not that it matters. Dad knew who really took care of him. That stung because it was a lie. I'd visited Dad 3 times a week for the past 2 years, while Valerie showed up maybe once a month. The next week dragged by painfully. I kept replaying Valerie's words, trying to make sense of them. Dad and I hadn't always been close, especially after Mom died 10 years ago. But we'd rebuilt our relationship these past few years. He'd seemed grateful for my visits, for the dinners I cooked, for helping him with his medication. Had I imagined all of that? My husband Derek tried to reassure me. Your dad wouldn't cut you out completely. Valerie's probably exaggerating. But doubt gnawed at me. Dad had built a successful accounting firm over 30 years. The house was paid off and worth at least $400,000. His savings were substantial. If Valerie really got everything, it wasn't just about money. It was about Dad choosing her over me one final time. The morning of the will reading, I dressed carefully. Professional, but not too formal. I wanted to maintain dignity no matter what happened. Derek offered to come, but I refused. This was something I needed to face alone. The lawyer's office was downtown in an old building with creaky floors. Mr. Peterson had been Dad's attorney for 20 years. He greeted me warmly in the waiting room. Catherine, I'm so sorry for your loss. Your father was a good man. Valerie arrived 15 minutes late, wearing an expensive black dress I'd never seen before. Probably bought with Dad's credit card before he died. She barely acknowledged me, just took a seat on the opposite side of Mr. Peterson's desk. Let's begin, Mr. Peterson said, opening a folder. He pulled out several documents. Your father updated his will 6 months ago. He was very specific about his wishes. My stomach dropped. 6 months ago, I'd been visiting Dad regularly. If he'd cut me out then, he'd done it while looking me in the eye every week. Valerie leaned forward eagerly. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat and began reading the standard legal language. Then he got to the actual bequests. To my daughter Valerie, I leave my collection of first edition books, valued at approximately $15,000. Valerie's confident expression cracked. What? That's it. What about the house? Mr. Peterson continued reading calmly. To my daughter Catherine, I leave my home and all its contents, my savings and investment accounts, and full ownership of Peterson Accounting Services. The room spun. I gripped the arms of my chair. That can't be right, Valerie said, her voice rising. He told me I was getting everything. Mr. Peterson looked at her over his reading glasses. When did he tell you that? She faltered. A few months ago. He said because I was the oldest, because I needed it more. The lawyer set down the will. Ms. Valerie, your father never indicated any such intention to me. This will is very clear. Valerie's face turned red. This is Catherine's doing. She manipulated him. He was sick, confused. I found my voice. Dad wasn't confused. His mind was sharp until the end. Mr. Peterson nodded. Your father was evaluated by 2 doctors before signing this will. He was completely competent and understood exactly what he was doing. Valerie stood up abruptly. I am contesting this. You poisoned him against me. She pointed at me accusingly. You spent all that time with him, turning him against his own daughter. Tears of anger ran down her face. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I spent time with Dad because I loved him, I said. Not because I wanted his money. She grabbed her purse. We'll see what a judge says about this. She stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. In the silence that followed, Mr. Peterson sighed. I apologize for that scene. Your father anticipated she might react poorly. He handed me another envelope. He left you this letter. He asked that you read it privately. My hands shook as I took it. Dad's handwriting on the front, for Catherine. Read this alone. Mr. Peterson stood. I'll give you a moment. Take all the time you need. He left me in his office with the letter and the will and the weight of everything that had just happened. I sat alone in that office for 20 minutes before I could open the letter. Dad's handwriting was shaky but legible. Dear Catherine, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry for how I treated you after your mother died. I was drowning in grief and I pushed away the person who reminded me most of her. You look like her, sound like her, have her kindness. It hurt too much to be around you. That's my failure, not yours. These past 2 years, having you back in my life, have been a gift. You didn't have to forgive me, but you did. You showed up every week with food and patience and love. You never asked for anything in return. Valerie is my daughter and I love her, but she only calls when she needs money. She visited me once in the hospital and spent the whole time on her phone. You held my hand through chemo. The choice of who gets what was easy. I'm leaving you everything because you earned it through love, not obligation. Don't let Valerie bully you. The letter continued on the back. The business is profitable. Mr. Peterson has all the details. The house needs some repairs, but it's solid. I've left instructions with the bank about the accounts. You'll be fine financially. More importantly, I want you to be happy. Your mother would be so proud of the woman you've become. I'm proud too, even if I didn't say it enough. Use this inheritance to build the life you deserve. Take Derek on that trip to Ireland you always talked about. Start the bakery you dreamed of. Live fully. And Catherine, don't feel guilty. You didn't manipulate me. You loved me when I was difficult to love. That's worth more than any inheritance. I love you, sweetheart. Always did, even when I was too broken to show it. Dad. I cried in that office, big messy sobs that I'd been holding in since the funeral. Mr. Peterson came back eventually and found me with red eyes and crumpled tissues. Are you all right? He asked kindly. I nodded. Can I get a copy of the will? The full document? Mr. Peterson made copies while I composed myself in the bathroom. My eyes were puffy and my makeup was ruined, but I felt lighter somehow. Dad had loved me. He'd seen my efforts and appreciated them. That meant more than the money or the house. When I got home, Derek took one look at me and pulled me into a hug. What happened? I told him everything. Valerie's tantrum, the will's contents, Dad's letter. Derek listened quietly, rubbing my back. So she got $15,000 in books and you got everything else? I nodded. And she's going to fight it. Derek pulled back to look at me. Let her try. You have nothing to hide. You took care of your dad, because you loved him. He was right, but I knew Valerie. She didn't give up easily. Over the next week, she called repeatedly. I didn't answer. She left voicemails, increasingly angry. You stole my inheritance. Dad was sick and you took advantage. I'll prove it in court. You'll regret this. Derek suggested getting a restraining order, but I hoped she'd calm down eventually. 2 weeks after the will reading, Valerie showed up at my house. I was gardening in the front yard when her car pulled into the driveway. My first instinct was to go inside and lock the door. But I stood my ground. She got out slowly, looking tired. The anger from the lawyer's office had faded into something else. Defeat maybe. Can we talk? She asked. I set down my gardening gloves. Okay. We sat on the porch steps, an awkward distance between us. Valerie stared at her hands. I hired 3 lawyers. They all said the same thing. The will is solid. Dad was evaluated. There's no grounds for contest. I didn't respond. I was counting on that money, she continued quietly. My marriage is falling apart. I have credit card debt. I thought Dad's inheritance would fix everything. For the first time, I saw my sister as she really was. Not the confident, favored daughter. Just someone struggling and desperate. The books he left you are worth $15,000, I said. That could help with the debt. Valerie laughed bitterly. $15,000 doesn't solve my problems. I owe 10 times that. I hadn't known her situation was so bad. What happened? She picked at her nail polish. Bad investments. Expensive tastes. A husband who spends money we don't have. The usual story. We sat in silence for a moment. I was horrible to you, she admitted. At the funeral, at the lawyer's office. I said terrible things. I couldn't disagree. Why did you think Dad was leaving you everything? She sighed. Because he always chose me. When we were kids, when I needed college money, when I got married. I was the golden child. I assumed that would continue. It was honest, at least. He did favor you, I agreed. For a long time. Valerie looked at me. But you were there when it mattered. I thought sending money and occasional visits was enough. Turns out actually showing up counts for something. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was close. What will you do? I asked. She stood up. File for divorce. Sell some stuff. Figure it out. Before Valerie left, she turned back. Can I ask you something? I nodded. Did Dad ever talk about me? Toward the end. I thought about it carefully. He mentioned you sometimes. He wished you'd visit more. But he understood you were busy. She nodded, tears forming. I should have made time. I just assumed he'd be around forever. That was the thing about death. It came when it wanted, not when it was convenient. He knew you loved him, I offered. It was probably a lie, but she needed to hear it. After Valerie drove away, Derek came outside. How did that go? I explained our conversation. Derek was skeptical. Think she meant any of it? I wasn't sure. Valerie had always been good at saying what people wanted to hear. But maybe facing her financial reality had changed her. Either way, I had my own decisions to make. The house needed to be cleaned out. Dad's business needed attention. His estate needed to be settled. Mr. Peterson had given me a list of tasks that felt overwhelming. I started with the house. Dad had lived there for 35 years. Every room held memories and clutter. Derek helped me sort through things. We found photo albums in the attic, pictures of Mom and Dad when they were young. Pictures of Valerie and me as kids. We looked happy then. You two used to be close, Derek observed, looking at a photo of us at a birthday party. We had been best friends until high school when Valerie became popular and I became invisible. Our paths had diverged and never quite reconnected. In Dad's bedroom closet, I found boxes of Mom's things he'd never gotten rid of. Her clothes, jewelry, books. All carefully preserved. He'd been more sentimental than I realized. At the bottom of one box, I found a journal. Mom's handwriting filled the pages. I sat on the bedroom floor and started reading. She'd written about her daughters, her marriage, her hopes and fears. One entry from a year before she died caught my attention. Valerie is struggling with who she is. She puts on this confident face, but inside she's terrified of not being perfect. Mom's journal continued. Catherine is the strong one. She doesn't know it yet, but she has a core of steel. Life will knock her down and she'll get back up. Valerie will need more help finding her way. I worry about leaving them. Reading Mom's words 15 years after her death felt like getting a message from beyond. She'd understood both of us better than we understood ourselves. I'd always thought Valerie had everything figured out. Apparently her confidence had been an act. Over the next month, I worked through Dad's estate methodically. The house was listed for sale. I didn't need 2 homes and couldn't handle the memories. The business was more complicated. Dad's partner Warren wanted to buy me out. I don't know anything about running an accounting firm, I admitted to Derek. He agreed that selling made sense. Warren offered $200,000 for my share. Mr. Peterson said it was fair. I accepted. With the house sale pending and the business sold, I had more money than I'd ever imagined. The responsible thing was to invest it, save it, be practical. Instead, I did something impulsive. I called Valerie. Can we meet for coffee? She sounded surprised but agreed. We met at a cafe halfway between our houses. Valerie looked better than at our last meeting. Less desperate. I sold some jewelry and furniture, she explained. Made a dent in the debt. Filed divorce papers. Good for her. I've been thinking, I said carefully. About Dad's estate and what he wanted. Valerie tensed. Catherine, if this is about rubbing it in, I cut her off. It's not. Just listen. I pulled out a check I'd written that morning. This is $50,000. It's yours. She stared at the check like it might explode. What? I pushed it across the table. Dad left me the estate. I'm choosing to share it with you. Not because I have to. Because I want to. Valerie picked up the check with shaking hands. Why would you do this? I was awful to you. I'd asked myself the same question. Because you're my sister. Because Mom would want us to help each other. Because Dad's money shouldn't destroy what's left of our relationship. Valerie started crying right there in the coffee shop. I don't deserve this. Maybe she didn't. But I didn't need all of Dad's money to be happy. And watching my sister struggle, while I had plenty, felt wrong. Use it wisely, I said. Pay off debt. Start fresh. Don't waste it. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Thank you. I'll pay you back somehow. I shook my head. It's a gift, not a loan. Just promise me you'll get your life together. We talked for 2 hours. Really talked, for the first time in years. She told me about her failing marriage, her poor choices, her regrets about Dad. I told her about my plans to finally open the bakery I'd dreamed about. You're really doing it? She asked. I smiled. Dad said to live fully. That's what I'm doing. Before we left, Valerie hugged me. I'm sorry for everything. The funeral, the accusations, being a terrible sister. I hugged her back. We're starting over. Both of us. It felt like the truth. The check I'd given her was Dad's money helping both his daughters, just in different ways. Opening the bakery took 6 months of planning. I found a perfect location downtown, a small shop with big windows. Derek helped with renovations. We painted walls, installed equipment, designed the layout. I named it Rosemary's after Mom. She'd taught me to bake when I was little. It felt right to honor her. Valerie came by during construction. This is amazing, Kat. She hadn't called me Kat since we were kids. Thanks. Want to help paint? She looked surprised but grabbed a brush. We worked together that afternoon, covering walls in warm yellow. It was peaceful, working side by side without fighting. I got a job, Valerie mentioned casually. At a non-profit. It doesn't pay much, but I like the work. I was proud of her. The old Valerie would have looked down on non-profit salaries. That's great. She smiled. Turns out not having money makes you appreciate what matters. The divorce was finalized. She'd moved into a small apartment. Started therapy. Was rebuilding her life from scratch. The bakery opened in October. Friends and family came to the grand opening. The first day was chaotic. Orders got mixed up. The register malfunctioned. I burned a batch of cookies. But customers were patient and kind. By closing time, we'd sold out of almost everything. Derek swept the floor while I counted receipts. You did it, he said proudly. I had. Dad's inheritance had made this possible. His belief that I could be happy had given me courage. The bakery became my happy place. Early mornings baking bread, afternoon rushes, regular customers becoming friends. I hired 2 part-time employees. Rita, a retired teacher who loved baking. And Josh, a college student saving for school. We became a little family. Valerie stopped by every week. She'd order coffee and whatever pastry I recommended. We'd talk about our lives, our plans, our memories of Mom and Dad. Slowly, we rebuilt the sisterhood we'd lost. Think Dad would be proud? She asked one day. I looked around the bakery, at the customers and the fresh bread and the life I'd built. Yeah. I think he would be. She smiled. Mom too. 1 year after Dad's death, Valerie and I visited his grave together. We brought flowers, Mom's favorite kind. Hi Dad, Valerie said softly. We're doing okay. Both of us. I added my own message silently. Thank you for the inheritance. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for the letter. We stood there in comfortable silence. I need to tell you something, Valerie said. About why I was so angry about the will. I waited. It wasn't really about the money, she continued. I mean, it was. But mostly it was about Dad choosing you. Finally picking you instead of me. It felt like I'd lost him twice. I understood that. Being the favorite was its own burden. Losing that status must have hurt. He loved both of us, I said. Just differently. She nodded. I know that now. And honestly, you deserved the inheritance. You earned it. We left the cemetery and went to lunch. Over salads, Valerie showed me photos of her apartment. She decorated it simply but beautifully. No expensive furniture or flashy items. I like having less, she admitted. It's freeing. The second year after Dad's death brought more changes. The bakery expanded. I hired 3 more employees and added a small seating area. Derek and I took that trip to Ireland Dad had mentioned in his letter. We spent 2 weeks exploring, eating, laughing. It was perfect. Valerie met someone new. A teacher named Ben who made her laugh. They took things slowly. I'm not rushing into anything, she told me. Learning from my mistakes. I liked Ben. He was kind and patient. Nothing like her ex-husband. They came to the bakery often. Ben would order the same blueberry muffin every time. Valerie started volunteering at her non-profit beyond her work hours. I'm actually good at this, she said, surprised. Helping people feels right. She'd found purpose beyond money and status. Meanwhile, Dad's house sold to a young family. I watched them move in, kids running around the yard. It was bittersweet, but right. The house needed life and laughter again. I kept a few of Dad's things. His favorite chair. Some books. The letter he'd written me. Derek and I decided to start trying for a baby. It felt like the right time. We were stable, happy, ready. Think you'll be a good mom? He asked one night. I thought about my own mom, about Dad's redemption, about the cycles families repeat and break. I'm going to try. That was all anyone could do. Valerie was excited when we told her. I'll be the cool aunt. The one who gives inappropriate gifts and teaches bad habits. We laughed. She'd be perfect at that. As the 3rd-year anniversary of Dad's death approached, I felt peace instead of sadness. He'd given me more than money. He'd given me permission to be happy. The will reading that had seemed so devastating had actually been a gift. It forced Valerie and me to confront our relationship. It gave me resources to chase dreams. It showed me that love and sacrifice mattered. The inheritance wasn't just money or property. It was a second chance. For me to build the life I wanted. For Valerie to become who she was meant to be. For both of us to honor Mom and Dad by being better. One afternoon, a man came into the bakery. He was older, maybe 60, with kind eyes. Are you Catherine? He asked. I nodded. I'm George. I worked with your father for 20 years. We shook hands. He talked about you constantly, George continued. About how proud he was. About your kindness. My eyes stung with tears. That means a lot. George ordered coffee and a croissant. Your father was a good man. Made some mistakes, sure. But he tried to make things right at the end. We talked for an hour. George shared stories about Dad I'd never heard. His generosity with employees. His integrity with clients. His sense of humor. He was scared before he died, George admitted. Scared of leaving things unfinished with you and your sister. I'm glad he fixed that. After George left, I called Valerie. Someone came in today who worked with Dad. I told her about the conversation. Dad really did try to make things right, she said softly. Even if it took him too long. We were both learning to forgive. Dad for his failures. Each other for our mistakes. Ourselves for not being perfect. That Christmas, Valerie and Ben came to our house for dinner. My first time hosting the holidays. I made Mom's recipes. Turkey with her special stuffing. The cranberry sauce Dad loved. Pumpkin pie from scratch. We sat around the table, Derek and me, Valerie and Ben. A small family, but a good one. A toast, Derek said, raising his glass. To Catherine, for this amazing meal and for bringing everyone together. I blushed. To family, I countered. The one we're born with and the one we choose. We all drank to that. Later, washing dishes with Valerie, she said, this is nice. Normal. It was normal. After years of tension and distance, we'd found our way back to something real. Think we would have gotten here without Dad's will? I asked. She considered it. Eventually maybe. But that day in the lawyer's office forced everything into the open. No more pretending. She was right. Sometimes you needed things to fall apart before they could be rebuilt properly. That night, after everyone left, Derek found me looking at Dad's letter. I kept it in a kitchen drawer, close but not obsessive. You okay? He asked. I nodded. Just grateful. I found out I was pregnant in February. Derek cried when I told him. We were having a baby. A new generation. I called Valerie immediately. She screamed with excitement. I'm buying the most obnoxious baby clothes. Prepare yourself. Ben sent a sweet text congratulating us. My little family was growing. At my first ultrasound, we discovered I was having a girl. Derek wanted to name her Rose, after my mom. Are you sure? I asked. She was your mother. It's perfect. So Rose it would be. I told the baby about her grandfather as my belly grew. He wasn't perfect, but he loved you before you were born. He wanted me to be happy. You're part of that happiness. The bakery continued thriving. Rita and Josh had become like family. They threw me a baby shower at the shop. Valerie helped organize it. She'd become good at planning events through her non-profit work. Look at us, she said during the shower. Actually getting along. I hugged her. We did it. We figured it out. She hugged back. Thanks for not giving up on me. Dad had been gone 3.5 years when Rose was born. She had dark hair like Mom and a loud cry like Valerie insisted she'd inherited from Dad. Derek was a natural father. Valerie came to the hospital with flowers and tears. She's perfect, Kat. Rose really was. Holding her, I thought about inheritance. Not the money kind. The real kind. Rose had inherited Mom's beauty and Dad's stubbornness. She'd inherit the stories I told her about her grandparents. She'd inherit the lessons I'd learned from Dad's will. That love matters more than money. That family is complicated, but worth fighting for. That it's never too late to make things right. The bakery closed for 2 weeks while I recovered. Rita managed everything perfectly. When I returned with Rose in a carrier, customers cooed over her. She'll grow up surrounded by bread and love, Rita said. Lucky girl. Valerie got engaged to Ben that spring. She called me crying happy tears. He proposed at the park where we had our first date. It was perfect. I was thrilled for her. When's the wedding? She laughed. Small ceremony. Nothing fancy. Just people we love. Valerie's wedding was beautiful. Simple but elegant. She wore a dress from a consignment shop and carried wildflowers. I was her maid of honor. Rose was the flower girl, though she mostly just sat in Derek's lap during the ceremony. At the reception, Valerie and I had a moment alone. "Thank you," she said. "For everything. The money, the second chance, believing in me." I squeezed her hand. "We're sisters. That's what we do." She smiled through tears. "Dad would be happy we worked things out." I agreed. Dad's will had seemed like theft at first. Valerie taking what should have been shared. But reading it aloud that day in Mr. Peterson's office had revealed the truth. Dad hadn't stolen anything from Valerie. He'd given us both what we needed. Her, a wake-up call. Me, the means to build a life. The inheritance wasn't money. It was opportunity. Years later, I still keep Dad's letter. Rose will read it someday. She'll learn about her grandfather's mistakes and his redemption. About how families fracture and heal. About how the greatest inheritance is love, even when it comes late. My sister didn't steal my inheritance. She helped me understand what inheritance really means.